how about we just jump into like seeing these cool projects? I know you built like a Cloudinary build plugin. Would love to see it in action and learn about it.
Yeah, that sounds good. So should I just share my screen then?
Yeah, let
All right,
me
let's go for it.
let's see how this goes.
So hopefully my internet bears with me because I'm for my hotel Wi-Fi. But let me find this tab.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
are you able to see? And is it switching back and forth, or is it just that single tab?
I could see
That's the Netlify plugin.
just it's like a GitHub repo.
Okay, I'm just gonna do it all in that one tab because I think it's only. I thought I was gonna do the window, but it's that one tab. But we'll make it
Oh,
work.
okay.
All right,
Let's do it.
so I have this Netlify build plugin that I created. I've been an avid Netlify fan for quite a while now. It kind of introduced me to like the Jamstack and just generally building apps much quicker and not worrying about DevOpsy things. And once I joined Cloudinary, I thought, there wasn't a plugin available. So where can I kind of fit that in and build something that I can help other people easily get spun up with Cloudinary and the benefits it brings, right? So
Yeah.
I created this plugin, and we can kind of just look through the README. I'm not going to walk through the entire README, but ultimately what it does is a Netlify build plugin gives you the ability to hook into different parts of the build process. So we're talking about typically in the build process, you have your build step and you have your deploy step, right? So we can do pre-build, we can do during the build, we can do post-build. So what I do is hook into those different steps and configure to grab all the different images in the project, and then I can turn them into Cloudinary URLs and send them over to your Cloudinary account. But also, because the web is a tricky place and it's very JavaScript heavy, I can't do that to all the images, right? That's really only the on-page images. So what it does on top of that is it provides a redirect. So anything you put in your images directory, it'll automatically be served from Cloudinary. So that's the overall gist. The hope is that we can get all of our images from the website being served through Cloudinary. So to kind of test this out, I have this demo repository. Let me pull it up.
Okay.
It's just a simple Astro application. If you're not familiar with Astro, it's a pretty cool JavaScript framework. I have to keep changing its existing tab, but I'm just going to show what the app looks like. So this is just a very simple demo. All it has is a bunch of images loading in there. You see that it's slow. My internet, of course, is slow, but literally all it is this single page with all these images. But if we look inside and actually inspect, my network tab is too big. We can see that it's just local images, right? These are being served from Netlify CDN, which is fantastic, but we're not really doing as much as we can to optimize those images, right? So our goal is to serve these through Cloudinary and see where we can get some of those benefits. So the first thing I did, and because of my slow internet, I went ahead and cloned this repo already. So I have this new repository at /images where literally all this is a cloned repository of that Astro project that I just showed. But what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to import this as a new project into Netlify, where we can see the before and after. And let me just double check and see if I can reshare the entire window, because I'd rather just switch between the slides or
No, I know what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, I figured it out. I just must have missed it before. Okay, so now you can see the entire window, right?
Yeah, hold on a second.
Perfect.
Let me add it to the stream. Yes, I can. I see your tabs and everything. Perfect.
Oh, sorry. I forgot you would have to reshare that.
No,
okay, so we have this My Images repository. And again, this is just a clone of that Astro application, a simple application. But now I'm going to head over to Netlify, where I'm going to add a new site where I'm going to import this existing project. So because we're using GitHub, and that's typically where I host my projects, I'm able to very easily use the OAuth inside of Netlify to look for those projects where I can find my images, where I'm just searching through all my different GitHub repositories.
Yeah. And your hotel Wi-Fi is kicking in.
Yes. That's why I tried to do as much as I can ahead of time without, spoiling all the fun. But the cool thing is we can see Netlify already grabs some of the different settings for the build. So yarn build, that's command I use to build a project, and the dist directory is where it's going to be output to. So ultimately, it's going to take that site, it's going to clone it down, and it's going to build it and deploy it. So all I have to do is click deploy site. So at this point, it's going to go out to Comforting Alpaca, which is a pretty fantastic name. I really enjoy the thought that Netlify puts into those names.
Me
And
too.
because it's a simple Astro app, it's going to be pretty quick. So we'll see here. But we got to wait a second for it to actually deploy, because then we'll actually look at the deployed application again and see where we're starting from and then where we can improve with Cloudinary. So just wait a second here. And in the meantime, I can, not notifications,
In
but
the
I can
meantime,
change
there's
my,
some people in the chat.
oh,
I guess Henri said haha hotel Wi-Fi. And then one person was curious. I know we went it over already, but they said, what is Cloudinary? They might have missed when we talked about it.
oh, sure. So Cloudinary is a media platform, which means a ton of things. It starts from actually managing your media. So like uploading your images to your Cloudinary account, where you can just generally, have a store of all your images and media, including videos and really any kind of media. But then taking it from there, you have the media delivery and the transformations. So that's as simple as delivering it from a performance CDN, but it's also has some really cool features like on the fly transformation. So that might be resizing or cropping, or you can even do things like create the social images like we talked about earlier, where you can do a bunch of different overlays so that you can create these really customized, dynamically created cards that'll be served for whatever the purpose is, like social media. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with it.
Yeah, I hope that answered your question. I think it says Ravid Singh Biz. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah,
Cool.
let me know if you have any other questions. But yeah, so yay, it looks like it was deployed, and we can open this up in a new tab, and we can see it's exactly like that other Astro app I saw. So we
Yeah.
can even inspect one of these images, and we can see here that we have it sourced from Netlify. They're just locally to the
Oh,
deploy, right? So it's
yeah.
coming from the Netlify CDN, which is expected because they're just simple images being served directly from the local application. Now, what I want to do is I want to reload this with the network tab open, because the interesting thing that I'm going to show here is what happens. I don't know how to shrink this a little bit.
Oh,
Let's see here. I mean, it doesn't matter too much, but just so I can show it a little bit more.
I
But
wonder
we
if
can
you
see
do
the images.
command subtract. Will that work? Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, that's a good idea. No. That's a good idea. As long as that's still viewable for everybody. But ultimately what I want to show is like the different things here that we get, the type, the size, the time. Now, these images, I just simply grab from Unsplash, like just as simple demo images, and I just throw them up on a page. But the point is that I want to try to convey is taking images like that are typically not put into any kind of optimization process. How can we actually provide the benefits of optimization without having to go through a lot of hoops? So that's where the Cloudinary plugin is going to come in for Netlify. So let's see how we can actually install that, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to head over to plugins and go to the plugins directory, where I'm going to simply search for Cloudinary. We can see the Cloudinary plugin right here, where I'm going to hit install, and then it's going to ask us where we want to install it. And I want to install it on my Comforting Alpaca, and I am sure that I want to install it. Now, the only other thing that you need to do is head over to your site settings, and we want to add an environment variable. So we go to build and deploy, and then environment. And here we're going to add Cloudinary cloud name, and then whatever your cloud name is. So in my instance, mine's just simply Colby Demo, and it's really just a free demo account. So make sure you grab your own. Otherwise, like you're really just going to hit the limits fast if everybody's using my own account. So make sure you go grab your own free account to do this instead. But all we need to do is add this environment variable, and it's in the README of the plugin if you need it. Then I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to head back over to my site overview, where all I need to do now is trigger a new deploy. So I'm going to head here, click deploy site, and then we can sit back and we can watch it deploy again. Now it's going to take a few minutes again. The other one was 31 seconds. So it'll take slightly longer probably because it's processing the images, but we can even open up the build logs and we can start to see what's happening. Now, in the meantime, while that is running, does anybody have any other questions thus far?
I have a question, and it's
Sure.
gonna sound kind of dumb. What do you mean by optimizing the image? Like, what is the difference between having a regular image versus an optimized one?
That's a great question. So there's a couple different ways that we can optimize images. Now, the kind of primary one that people probably think of is compression. So like compressing an image to still try to maintain the integrity of the image, but without including all the extra bits that you can't really visually perceive, right? So that you can get that file size smaller. But then you can also optimize it by doing things like resizing it, where if you don't need to have a humongous image, you can resize it down so that you can only serve the as big of an image that you need and avoid wasting a bunch of bandwidth for people who are downloading those images. I think, you know, those are two of the big ones. There's definitely more, but oh, and there's also like the file format. So what that means is, like, we saw that there were JPEGs, and like you can serve more modern formats, which will provide better compression algorithms that we were talking about earlier. So if I actually start to look, oh, it's still going. I thought it'd be done by now.
No worries. But that cleared it up a lot for me, because I was like, optimize, awesome. Okay. But I'm like, I don't know what that is. But that makes a lot of sense.
I guess I did just kind of assume that everybody would know what I'm talking about there. It looks like I just need to refresh the page. But what I wanted to show here specifically is we have this Netlify build step where if we start to go through, we see the typical stuff that happens from Netlify, where we have this build command where it's just simply running yarn build or astro build. But now we can see Netlify plugin Cloudinary, where it's an on build event, and we can see exactly what's happening, where I have a few logs in here just to kind of describe what's happening. We're creating the deploy uploads, or wait, that might be a Netlify console log, but we're creating the redirects here, where we can see here that anything in that images directory is going to go to this redirect that I created. And then as we kind of go further, we have on post build, where we try to replace all the on page images that we can. That way, you know, we can get that very first request is going to be super optimized. But then Netlify goes through, deploys the site, and finishes up and actually makes it live. But now let's open this up in a new tab, and we can see that it's going to load, and it probably doesn't look anything different. I would give you money if you can try to notice a difference, but you know, you can't. Good joke. But I'm going to refresh the page here, and we can see that our results, if you remember from the other one, look a little different. And this is why I wanted to have it up in two open tabs, because if I head over to the other one, we can see the biggest difference you notice, first of all, is this type, where this new tab has AVIF for all of the different types. And if we look at the other one, we have JPEG. So the first thing we're doing is we're taking advantage of Cloudinary's ability to automatically serve a modern format depending on the browser that's actually requesting it. So what that means is not all browsers might support AVIF, for example. If it supports WebP, it'll serve WebP. If it doesn't support either of those, it'll serve JPEG, right? So it's going to try to automatically determine what's going to be the best format to serve for the particular media that's being served. Now, taking that a step further, we can start to look at the size here too. Now, if I tab back, we can see that a lot of these are a lot smaller. Let's see, is it ordered the same? Yeah, it's ordered exactly the same. But we can see the sizes are substantially different, right? Yeah. And that's going to mean that we also have a substantially smaller time for all those requests, which is awesome, because not only are we saving bandwidth for people, but we're going to give a faster experience for people trying to load this site, right? Yeah. It's just going to provide a better experience, and everybody's going to be happy with those faster images that are going to get served to the site. So, well, this is like the kind of basics of the plugin, and there's not a ton yet that is inside of the plugin. You can do things like configure your uploads and typical Cloudinary upload configurations, but the idea and the hope here is to provide these blanket optimizations so that people can just simply install this plugin and not really have to do much more, right? Yeah. And just simply this alone, like we can look at the even transferred here at the bottom too, like the original 4.5 megabytes transferred, which dropped down to 1.5. Like it's a substantial difference, right? But yeah, that's the plugin. Yeah, that's the plugin in a nutshell.
I learned a lot. I didn't know anything about optimization, and I didn't realize that would speed up web performance. Talking about that, I know Henri is really close into web performance.
Oh yeah, I'm being careful here because I know Henri's. I don't want him to correct, or yeah, I'd like him to correct me if I say something wrong, of course. But I'm trying to be on my best behavior.
I get you. You're like, oh, this is an expert. Let's see what the chat said. Cloudinary even does .jxl. What is .jxl? I don't know that one.
I honestly don't know too much about JXL. He probably knows much more. We have image scientists and experts working at Cloudinary that know a whole lot more than I do about that stuff. I haven't really dove into JXL yet, but it sounds like we support it. I know that Cloudinary supports SVGs, but I don't know to what extent. Like I know, for instance, you can turn an SVG into a different format. I just don't know the extent that you can work with them.
Gotcha. Feel like SVGs are efficient enough. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I downloaded an image from Cloudinary the other day, and it said .avif, and I was like, "What is this?" But glad I had this.
Yeah.
Because now I have context in that. Oh, someone says, "Does video optimization work similarly?" Oh, they're asking you optimization questions. Not sure if you'll be able to. Does video optimization work similarly, or are there additional considerations for optimization?
So from a high level, it works similarly, but it's definitely more involved than saying that as a blanket statement, because there's different ways to optimize video versus imagery. And again, Henri probably knows this more than I do, but it's kind of the same ideas applied, but it's going to be in different ways that are specific to video.
Gotcha. And then Henri said, "Is if you use Safari, you can see the WebP." Oh, he was wondering if we should use Safari to show the WebP download. So I guess Safari supports WebP, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Let me try to spin up a new browser with that. And at this point, I'm just going to share my entire. Well, no, I'm not going to share my entire screen, but I can pull up that link in Safari. Just give me 1 second here.
Okay, no worries.
Sure, stop screen. And sorry, you're gonna have to re-add the screen share.
That's okay. This is good practice for me for using.
There you go.
StreamYard. Okay, add to stream. Cool.
Okay, am I able to? Yep, there we go. Okay, so network tab. Oh, and we can see it right away. I don't even have to refresh. We can see that Safari. I got rid of it.
Yeah,
I was trying to get bigger. We can see that Safari is loading these WebP images, and that's because that's what Safari supports, right? So within what's happening in the background with Cloudinary, it's trying to determine, first of all, what can it support? Second of all, what's going to be the best option? So while most of the time those modern formats are going to be the best format available for, reducing the size, that's not all the cases. I know there's a good CSS tricks article out there that talks about it where, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the better format, but sometimes it's not. So Cloudinary works on the fly to determine what that best option is, and that's what it serves.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And then I don't know if you'll be able to answer this. Lots of image questions, and I know you're a software engineer or a developer advocate. So someone said, any thoughts on the WebP format? Whenever I run, I guess you kind of answered that. I don't know. But whenever I run it, some performance tools, they suggest WebP, but it seems the browser support is limited. I don't know.
So in my opinion, it really depends on what you're building, the audience you're building the application for. And I think, from when I started software web development, we were talking about having to support things like IE6 and IE7, right? And we're not there anymore, right? We can support mostly modern browsers because they're automatically updating stuff. But still, that said, you might, if you have an audience where you're building for very super heavily restricted browsers, you might have to be more conscious about being able to serve some of those legacy formats. But 9 times out of 10, again, if you're serving for just the general public, you should be able to serve the modern formats. But again, if you're using Cloudinary, you don't even need to think about that. It's just automatically going to handle that for you and serve wherever it's supported.
Awesome. Cool.
I 7 to the ground. Yeah.
I'm dead. Yeah, Internet Explorer, it's the bane of my existence. But this was really cool. Thanks for showing this. I learned a ton of things. Does anyone else have any other questions for this? You can actually get away with using WebP all the time. Really? Y'all know a lot on. I feel like my
Henri is
yeah, my knowledge is breadth, not depth. I'm I'll touch front end, I'll touch back end, but then people start getting deep, and I'm like, ooh.
Oh yeah. And then you try to carry along with the conversation. You're like, yeah.
I just start nodding. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. No, I don't. Thank you. This was awesome. If there's no more questions related to this, do you want to? I guess we're already 20 minutes in, so I know I plan to show a lot, but Do you either want to show the AI vision or the generating personalized social media cards? Either one that you prefer.
Sure. Now, I'm not prepared to demo either of those.
Oh.
Though we could probably open up one of my tutorial demos and I can just kind of play around with it and we can see what's actually happening. So let's just do that. Yeah, that sounds good. We'll just wing it and see what happens.
Yeah, we'll just talk
Let me
about
share
it.
my yeah.
Sorry.
So let me share that window again. No. I guess I should have been a little bit more prepared for that. So on my site, and this isn't trying to self promo. Let's see. I need to find the article.
Self-promo is okay. Go to spacejelly.dev,
Okay.
y'all.
My search is not working properly. So we can start with this one. So I think one of the cooler, like this is just a really, there's a lot of like simpler things that just take like one little thing and it provides like a better experience. And one of them is face detection, where if you have a bunch of images that are just like randomly sorted, right? Like that's not really going to provide the best experience where you have these different sizes and they're not really consistent. But scrolling down to the end result, let's get to it. But Cloudinary has where you can actually crop dynamically based off of what they call a gravity. And in this case, we can set that gravity to faces. So it's going to detect the faces in that image and crop it based off of where that's at. So this is what it looks like inside of the API, where we set that gravity to face along with what we're using to resize the image, and it's going to give you this result. Now, let me actually open that. I think it's my stream. Yeah, here we go. The ultimate result is that we have these images that are cropped to the faces, right? And if I open any of these up, like if I open up 11's image, we can see this is happening all inside of this Cloudinary URL. In this particular instance, I'm using a remote URL and passing it in using the fetch API. But we can see inside of this part that I'm highlighting. Are you able to see that well?
Yeah, that's like the sizing and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the sizing, and it's called the transformation of the image. So the width here, what I'm setting, I'm also setting the quality to auto and the format to auto, which is what we talked about a little bit earlier. But this is where I'm setting that gravity to face. So if I get rid of that, let's see what happens. We can see that it's literally just going to crop the middle of it, right? Because it's not using anything intelligent to do so. But having that face in there, it's going to say, hey, I want it to pull that face into the middle of the frame and then set that crop. So it's just a simple but really effective way to be able to show images like that without having to do manual editing on a ton of different things.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it to be really fun, as simple as the thing it is. Let me just look into questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts. I'm a developer. I'm familiar with Cloudinary.
Set how tight the zoom is. I think so. I would have to try to ask around about that. I know, like, for instance, you can figure out what that size is going to be, but that's not going to be necessarily the zoom. I think you can kind of set that zoom. I just don't know off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I've done that. But I'd have to get back to that question. If anybody from Cloudinary is in the chat, definitely try to answer some of these. Also, what happens if the image has transparency, like a ping? So generally speaking, I'm guessing you're talking about generally speaking, right? So if it's a ping and you're serving as a ping, like it's going to keep serving as a ping, right? I think that if it determines that it has transparency, it's only going to use formats through that automatic detection or the automatic formatting. It's only going to use formats that support transparency, right? I don't know if both WebP and Aviv. I know WebP does, right? I don't know about Aviv, but it's only going to serve the format that actually supports that. If you're trying to use the auto, I think I'm like 90% sure on that.
I'll take your word is gold. Like, I don't. Sounds good. Oh, he meant gravity and transparency.
Oh, good question. I feel like that wouldn't affect it, because ultimately it's just trying to determine when using faces, it's just determining where that face is, right? So it's going to still crop it based off of that location. And the interesting thing is it also has not only just faces, you can use subject, which, oh, I thought it was subject. Maybe I used the wrong one. There's one called subject where it's going to, or maybe it's auto, where it's automatically going to detect where that, yeah, see, so it's still detecting on the face, but it's not only for people, right? Then you can do things like, if you're taking a picture of a stuffed animal, like it'll automatically detect what that primary figure is, and it'll crop it according to that. So it's just another method that you have in your tool belt for being able to intelligently do those kind of things.
So Cloudinary just has that built into it? Like,
yep, it's just a feature out of the box. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm impressed.
Yeah. So let's try to do another one. I think the background deletion removal is a really cool one. So let me find. Well, this is categorization. That one's cool too. I'll save that in another. Just let me know if we're starting to run out of time.
No, it's okay. I mean, if you don't want it, if you.
No.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Oh wait, I did this as a media jam actually. So there's this site called Media Jams. Shout out to Media Jams that we created. That's supposed to just be like a publication that's specific to media, right? So images, video, people building proof of concepts and kind of writing articles about it, tutorials, trying to help people learn use cases for media, right? And that's a very specific thing. But we can even I know like there's social media cards, and we have Jason Langsdorff here with adding watermarks to videos. But let me see if we can find the one that I did. Yeah. So changing a background image. So ultimately what I did here is I was changing the background image, or the background of an image with Cloudinary.
Cool.
We can click and run this code sandbox, which is going to load the demo if it doesn't take too long. But we're kind of working in a couple steps here, where the first thing we need to do is we need to actually remove the background. And the cool thing is with Cloudinary is we can do that intelligently by using Cloudinary AI. So I can actually open up the code in this sandbox and we can look at that. So I think I'm actually setting that as an option in the app. So when you're uploading your image to Cloudinary, and right now I have a proxy of an upload, because in order to upload and provide some of these options, you need to be able to do so signed, and you need your API key, your API secret, and you don't want those things in the client, right? Here's starting sandbox. That's not good.
Oh no. That's okay.
I'll see if it opens up in the main one. It was working before. It's so weird. Maybe it's because I'm on hotel Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah.
Though that should be a remote thing. Anyways, what we do is we pass in this background removal of Cloudinary AI. So what that's doing is it's telling Cloudinary that we want to use your AI. It's as simple as passing that option. It's an add-on that's available in your Cloudinary project, but then it's going to go off and it's going to start that process where it's going to remove that background and then resave your asset as such. See,
There
it
it
loaded
is.
here. I don't know why I didn't do the other one, but let's see. Collapse. Okay, so I'm going to upload an image, and hopefully my desktop isn't too cluttered with random stuff. Here's a picture of me in my normal getup, but I'm going to upload this file, which is just simply a picture of me.
Yeah.
So what it's doing right now is it's using that endpoint that I showed, where it's first taking this, it's simply uploading it to the Cloudinary cloud, to my Cloudinary account. Then it's going to provide a second upload where it's going to then remove the background using that Cloudinary AI technique. So the interesting thing about that is it's not going to happen synchronously. So typically when you make a request, you would think that you send the post and you're going to get the response back, right? So what's actually going to happen is once you send that request, it's going to come back as pending. So what I need to do in this application is I need to keep checking the status of it. And once it's finished, because it's not something that can happen instantaneously, right? It's complicated AI-based processing. So once it's finished, we can now see that I have that background completely removed. And the more fun thing is I can start changing the images, whether I want to look like I'm in the office or, this is fine. But it's just like a cool way to be able to provide different backgrounds. And this is just something for fun, but think about like employee headshots on a website or something like that. It's being able to make everything look consistent.
Yeah.
And again, we can start to inspect this URL and we can see that all these transformations are here. Let me get rid of this URL parameter just so that we can clearly see everything. But this ID at the very end is going to be the public ID of the base image. And that
Okay.
base image is going to be my transparent image, as you can see here. So that was the result of the Cloudinary removing the background. But then I'm using what's called an underlay, which you're probably familiar since you use the social cards technique of the overlays,
Yep.
where we can start to stack different things on top of an image. What an underlay does is basically the same thing, but it allows me to kind of slide something underneath. So because this original image has the transparent background, I can slide that image right underneath, where then I can just fill all the available space using that crop of fill, setting the relative width of 1.0 for both the height and the width. And I have my underlay, which it lets me change my background. And again, that's all happening right inside the URL, my chair thing.
No worries.
That's embarrassing.
Okay.
But we're doing this on the URL. I didn't do any of this ahead of time. Like I literally just uploaded this, and we can change all these things on the fly. Like just to prove this, like I can get rid of those width and height, which should make it look wrong, right? Like, because what it's doing is it doesn't have anything to contain it, so it's just including that entire background image. But that's why I set those relative width and height. But we're able to do that all in the URL, which I think is just really cool. And not just because I work there. I think it's a pretty awesome.
No, I think it's awesome. We were initially doing the social card. Like, I just like Cloudinary. We were doing the social cards in Photoshop, and I just don't know how to use Photoshop. So I was like, I'm gonna have to just code. So Cloudinary is like my savior for it.
It's like, of course there's web Photoshops now, like those things, but like it's basically being able to programmatically Photoshop stuff. It's really, that's
mind blowing.
That should be the tagline: programmatic Photoshop.
Yes, I love that. Let me see what else. Hi, Will. Thanks for joining us. And then someone said that's awesome. I don't think I am creative enough to use this in cool. Honestly, I do feel like you thought of cool ways to just leverage Cloudinary. I don't know.
So what I'm trying to do is I keep a huge list of different ideas that I have. And like, if I think of a random thing, like I make sure I note it on my phone, or if I see something that looks cool and I'm like, how can I recreate this in Cloudinary, right? So a separate project that I've been working on, I can actually just demo it. This is supposed to be it's not like it's hidden or anything. But I've been working on this application to take to conferences with us, which I'm going to bring for the first time to CityJS Conf Brazil. And it's called CloudyCam, which is a reimagining of the original CloudyCam, which what it's going to allow us to do is we can take on any device. We can allow somebody to open up this application where right now I have access to my webcam, right? This is my on Mac webcam. But now my screen is too small. Okay, so we have the photo button where I can let me smile. But what it's going to do is it's taking using React Webcam. I'm taking that snapshot. I had no intent of demoing this, so hopefully I do it okay. So it's taking that snapshot, it's uploading it to Cloudinary, and then it's starting to do the same exact thing that we saw in this demo here, right? So now that I have the transparent version available for me, I have both of those in my app store so that I have access to them. So one of the first things, maybe I want to add a Darth Vader mask to my image, and that's just like an overlay image, right? Or maybe I want to use some of the default Cloudinary styles. These are kind of like your Instagram photo filters, right? Yeah. And because my idea is to hopefully create something kind of like Snapchat or the Instagram filters, and just make something fun that people can play with. But again, we see those examples, and I created the tutorial based off of this idea, because I like to try to create tutorials based off stuff I'm learning and doing in practice. But we can see all these different things, and then ultimately we're going to want somebody to share this, right? And that's going to be kind of the point of using this inside of a conference. But so once they click this share button, we're taking this beautiful piece of art that I just created, where they're going to have this unique link that they can now share out on Twitter. And the hope at the conference is that they can get a free unicorn plush. So make sure if you see us at a conference, you stop by, you spin up this application, and you share your beautiful work of art.
This is impressive. My mind is blown. I need to get creative like you. I feel like my projects are always very basic.
I think it's a little bit easier. It's easy with Cloudinary, right? Because it's a it's such a visual tool that you can do so many different things with it, right? And part of it is like the Snapchat and Instagram filters, right? It's borrowing that idea and how can I recreate it. So I'm just having a lot of fun with it, and there's so many different things that we can do.
This was amazing. Thanks for sharing all those. Sorry about putting you on the spot for the other one.
No. I kind of put myself on the spot with some of it too, right? So
awesome. Okay, cool. I think we can transition. Let's see if anybody else has any questions. Sorry if this was asked, but video support, someone said.
Yeah, totally support video. And it's more than just video, support audio. You can upload PDFs. I was doing this other proof of concept where so what they can do is you can grab a specific slide of a PDF that's uploaded to Cloudinary, and you can serve a preview image of that, right? So what I did is I created a little slideshow widget that I'm actually using on my website. I'm not going to reshare it at this point, but that way I can just simply upload a PDF of my talk slides, and I have this little slider now that people can preview through the slideshow. That's just going to say it supports really any type of media.
Someone said this will soon kill Adobe. That's how I feel. I'm I'm never opening Adobe again.
We have so many new taglines out of this. Adobe killer, programmatic Photoshop. I'm really enjoying this.
Watch out, Cloudinary marketing team.
There we go.
Cool. I want to wrap up with non-technical questions on, and I don't know if you prepared for this, but the two questions are what's your favorite food and what's your favorite Beyonce song?
So for food, let's go Brazil style since I'm down in Brazil right now. Ooh. And let's say coxinha. Coxinha I don't know if you've ever heard of chicken croquettes, where it's like a fried ball of chicken. It's kind of like that, but you don't want to compare it because it's just so much better. It's like shredded chicken and cheese inside this little dough ball thing. It's amazing.
That sounds good.
So you said, what was the other one?
No, I said, the other one was favorite Beyonce song, but that sounds good. I'm vegetarian, so I never ate chicken.
Okay.
But it sounds good because I just love dough with food in it. It's always a good combo.
Well, they take that concept and they stuff so many different things in it. I know they have some with corn, for instance, and it's just the general concept. Chicken's, of course, the original and the best, but there's a lot of good options.
I love
now the Beyonce song. I have to go. I'm a big Destiny Child's fan, so but let's stick with just solo Beyonce. I'm still back to the throwback of Crazy in Love. Love that one.
Yes. Okay. I love Beyonce's throwback songs. Okay. Good choice. Good choice.
There we go.
Someone said, what about coffee? Oh, and then Henri said, how's parenthood?
That's a whole nother subject. No, it's amazing. It's one of the most challenging things I've ever done, but at the same time, it's so rewarding. I love my little buddy, and it's amazing seeing him grow up and learn new things. But thanks for asking. As far as coffee, do you mean just coffee in Brazil? I'm a huge iced coffee drinker, and that's what I try to drink every day. So it's been challenging because most of the people here think iced coffee is disgusting. So I have to be creative with it. And every morning I ask for a cup of ice, and I put the coffee over ice. But Brazilian coffee is really good, so I really enjoy it.
Awesome. I'm learning a lot, even about different foods. Right. Thank you so much. You made this awesome. I really learned a lot. Someone said, I hear so much about Brazilian pizza. I've never heard about that.
There's so much to talk about Brazilian food. It's amazing. Now, Brazilian pizza is interesting because the dough itself is a little bit different, but the more interesting thing about it's all about the toppings. So one of my wife's favorite is, I think it's called Portuguesa, but what they do is they peppers and onions and sausage. It's like a Brazilian type sausage, and ham and corn, and then they put ketchup and mayo on top of it. It's it sounds bizarre because it's literally it's a big thing of toppings. And they even use a fork and a knife. It's not common to see people eating with their hands because of the load of toppings on there, right? But it's very good. I love both of them. I think it's hard to compare because they're so different. But Brazilian pizza is it. And that applies to hot dogs too, which sounds crazy, but it's also all about the toppings, where same rules apply. Just as much as you can on top of the hot dogs. It's great.
Wow. I'm going to have to try Brazilian cuisine. It's crazy because my parents are from Guyana, which is right next to Brazil, but like the cuisine is like more on like the Caribbean side, like Peru foods and stuff like that. But I love this. Thank you. You taught us so much about Brazilian food, and then also about like media images and stuff like that. We're nearing
the Pachi is here. I hope I did it justice.
I know, Pachi. Let us know if we missed anything. But I think you did. I feel like you convinced me. I'm like, my stomach's growling. I'm ready to try. So, but yeah, I do want to promote your course that you just dropped, spacejelly.dev. I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit, and then and want to promote anything else as well, and then we can wrap up.
Sure. So I dropped a new course on egghead.io, e-commerce, product management, and storefront with Graph CMS, Snipcart, and Next.js. So, that what it boils down to is I teach you how to build an online store to start, but also how you can manage all the products inside of it. So a lot of the courses just kind of show you how to do the store, which is super important because people need to buy things, but how do you actually manage all those products and the data associated with it, right? So I go through all those steps, and I even use Cloudinary in it to show you how you can use Cloudinary in that entire flow. So definitely go check it out. It's an easy link, spacejelly.dev/ecom course. It's free for launch, so that's another bonus.
Ooh, it's free. Yeah. Okay, y'all. Definitely check it out. Thank you for creating that so you can teach people more things. Thanks so much for hopping on with us, Colby.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for your patience too, to you and the rest of the listeners. I know I was going back and forth with being able to stream this, but now
it was worth it.
Finally had it. Yeah, it was worth it. Thank you so much. Yep. And also, tune in next time. I believe April 27th. I'm going to be talking with Ben Holmes about Astro. I know you just did like that project with Astro. So if y'all like this, come through next time. Looks like people thought it was cool. So thank you, Colby. All right, y'all. See you.
Thanks for everybody stopping by.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone. I'm going to press end.